Hi everyone, welcome back to Maximum Attack Rallying into another vlog. I want to start this video by saying thank you to everyone that watched the last episode. It was the most viewed episode since I sort of relaunched in this new format. So I'm really grateful for that. Let's say this right at the top. If you do like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, turn on notifications, follow me on Instagram and Twitter and wherever. There's links in the description of everything. So please do that because I do really appreciate your support and I want us to keep moving on up. So now that's out of the way, this video I think it's probably a bit of a news one, isn't it? Because we've had lots and lots of news this week. I think the biggest story to break this week is that Andreas Mikkelsen is returning to Hyundai. So he drove for Hyundai in 2017 to 2019 on and off, and didn't have the best time really. I think just never quite worked, did it? It was a bit of a tumultuous time, I think, in driver terms. There was lots of lots of movement. He even spent some time driving the Citroen. He is back with Hyundai. He will be sharing the third i20 with Esa-Pekka Lappi and Danny Sordo, which is, oh my god, there's a lot of potential for complication there, isn't there? Weirdly, the press release talked about Mikkelsen being kind of the tarmac expert and Lappi being the fast gravel expert and Danny Sordo being the kind of rough gravel expert. So I don't really know who's going to do which events, because I mean, Lappi actually had some pretty good speed on tarmac this year, and obviously Sordo would have good speed on tarmac, as you would expect. It sounded like at one point that Sordo might only do Portugal, but the wording of the Hyundai press release suggests that he might do more. I personally think, and this is an opinion, that he probably won't do many events. I would think maybe 2 or 3. I think the majority will definitely be split between Mikkelsen and Lappi, because they're kind of a longer term prospect, and I personally think, based on what Sordo has said, that this will be his last year. I think he wants to do Portugal because it's as close to a home event as he gets, and you know, maybe a couple of the rougher events, but I think otherwise that will be that. So that leaves kind of 10, doesn't it? So probably 5 each is my guess. It's good news for Mikkelsen, isn't it? You have to say that. It's well deserved. I think he demonstrated this year that he is a very good driver. You know, he's a steady hand, but I think what impressed this year is that he had a couple of performances. I think it was, oh my God, Greece, was it? And Central Europe, where he showed some really good pace and put the hammer down and showed that he's a fast driver. So I am pleased for him. I'm pleased to see him back in a top level car. I think it is well deserved, but it does raise lots of questions. And the biggest one of those is about Teemu Suninen. What on earth happens to him right now? There was no mention of him in the Hyundai press release. Sorry, I keep doing this, don't I? It's like a shampoo advert. I really need a haircut. There was no mention of him in the press release. Everyone kind of expected that next season that third car would be split between Lappi and Suninen, because Lappi said he wanted to do less events, and that logically everyone thought, well, Sordo's talking like he's going to retire, so everyone was thinking it's going to be Suninen and Lappi. No mention of Suninen. So where does that leave him? There's only 2 places he can really go. The first is that he just drops back to the Hyundai Rally 2 car, which has reminded me, do they even want him for that? Is he even very useful in that role? Because with having Mikkelsen on the events that he isn't doing in the Rally 1 car, he could be in the Rally 2 car, and his input into the Rally 2 car will be really useful because he spent so long driving the Skoda, which is the best Rally 2 car. So you have to ask yourself, is that even viable? The only other thing is he going to try and find a way back into M Sport? He'll need some money, won't he? Because I think M Sport are in a position where they're going to have a paying driver. I mean, for M Sport, it would be good if he could make that happen because I think Formo has grown a lot over the last year. I think Lube has to some extent too, but neither of those drivers are winners, are they? And I mean, Sunderland isn't a winner, but I think you have to say that there's perhaps more potential. So I think that's a very, really interesting situation. I think, I wouldn't even like to hazard a guess. I'm not sure we will see him at M Sport, even though it could be a good move. Obviously, the other big question is what actually happens at M Sport and who they have. My feeling is that it will be a kind of a stick, and they'll just have Formo and Lube because I don't think they'll want to pay someone. I know people are talking about Oliver Solberg going there. I can see why they're talking about that because, I mean, while Mikkelsen is the best all-rounder in WRC2 this season, I think Solberg is the fastest driver in WRC2. So I can see why it would be appealing. There is still this issue of sponsorship. Ford have become more entwined with Red Bull because of their engine deal for Formula One. I know M Sport are technically a separate entity and there isn't a full works program, but it does add complication, doesn't it? Because Oliver is sponsored by Monster, so whether it happens, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see Oliver Solberg back in a Skoda next season. It would be great to see him in Rally 1. I think he's reaching a point where he's ready for it. So I would like to see him in a Rally 1 car. Time will tell, won't it? Other big things, oh my lord. On the driver front, just quickly, so Toyota have been testing the Rally 2 car this week, and they have said that they will not run a factory team. I know they'd said this previously, but there was a lot of talk about Sami Pajari being in a works Yaris Rally 2. Tom Fowler came out this week, I think it was to Dirtfish, and said that isn't happening. If he wants to drive one, he can drive one, built for a customer team. I think that's quite interesting because there has been a lot of talk about that, and it does make me wonder, are we going to see a kind of Tok Sport, PH Sport type arrangement where there is effectively a de facto works team being run by a satellite operation? So Tok Sport is not Skoda, but Skoda do help run that program, and the same was happening with Citroën Racing and PH Sport, though that looks to be switching to DG Sport. And I've just thought of another thing. Oh my god, there is so much driver news happening. Earlier in the week, with everything that happened with Mikkelsen, I forgot. Citroën, yes. So Citroën have switched, it looks like, from PH Sport to DG Sport. So we've got that change. Johan Rossell will still be driving a C3 in WRC2 next year, but crucially he will be joined by a second car, which takes us back to the de facto works team. So this is starting to look like a Citroën factory WRC2 team, isn't it? That was a lot of words. Because Nikolai Gryazin, who has been a Skoda pilot for a while, is switching to drive one at the Citroën alongside Rossell. So there will be two C3s, which is really good. I'm not going to speak too much about that. However, it's making WRC2 look rather strong, isn't it? We don't know who's going to be driving a Skoda next year, apart from it not being Mikkelsen. Could well be... Sorry, I thought someone was opening the door, but there's no one here, so I think the cat is jumping up at the door. Cat is definitely pushing on the door. That completely blew my train of thought out of all kilter. So, yes, WRC2 is looking really, really strong, isn't it? So we know who's in Citroën, Rossell and Gryazin. That's a pretty strong team. We don't know who's going to be in the Skoda. We know it won't be Mikkelsen. Could be Greensmith, who had some good results this year. Could be Solberg, also had some good results this year. Man, there's just so many names, isn't there? Who's going to be in the Hyundais? You know, we've got Lindholm in the Hyundai program. Is Sunderland going to be in a car? Is Mikkelsen going to find a way to do enough events to put himself back in WRC2 contention? There's a lot going on there. You know, what's going to happen with the M Sport? The Fiesta has gone on leaps and bounds in 2023. So I think WRC2, especially once you throw the Toyota into the mix, oh my God. I put a post out on socials earlier this week with pictures of all the Rally 2 cars and just said, give me a Rally 2 car over a Rally 1 car any day. I have, yes, the cat was pushing because he's just come in. You don't care about that, but I'm going to tell you. Give me a Rally 2 car. I think I just have no interest in Rally 1 in a way. The Rally 2 model is just so much better. The cars are better, the number of teams is better. I just think it's going to be really, really fantastic, especially with Toyota. I think we probably are going to see Pyari in a private semi-works, de facto kind of works Yaris. Who else we will see in one? I'm sure Jari-Matti Lepvela said we could expect up to 5 GR Yaris Rally 2s in Monte Carlo, so can't wait for that. Rally 2 is going to be absolutely brilliant in 2024. Cannot wait. However, that brings me to the final story that I just want to touch on quickly. I know I'm rushing through lots of things, but I don't want the video to be in half an hour. We've had some FIA news this week, which I'm struggling to even remember because there was quite a lot of things crammed in. Lots of it, not too much information, a few little bits and pieces. So, gravel crews or route note crews will be allowed in WRC2 on tarmac events, which basically means effectively your recce car will be driven through the stage by a backup crew just to check the conditions a little while before the stages. That was something that had been asked for throughout the year, so that's probably a good thing. What else? Point system. This is an interesting one, isn't it? The point, there is apparently a change to the point system coming, but we don't know what it is yet. This is relating to the power stage thing, obviously drivers cruising on Sunday to save their tyres. Apparently they're going to change the point system to try and discourage that. I'm going to reserve judgment until we find out what's actually happening, but I don't know. I have my doubts. Personally, I think we should have just modified the servicing schedule a little bit so that everyone was on fresh tyres for the power stage, but we'll see, won't we? Let's not judge that book by its cover. But on the word of tyres, probably the biggest regulatory commercial news is that Hankook have been announced as the official WRC tyre supplier from 2025. They will supply all of the four-wheel drive cars, so Rally 1, 2 and 3. I don't know what to say about that really. For Hankook, it's good, isn't it? They've been making rally tyres for a long time. I have used Hankook rally tyres. I'm not going to comment on how good they are because I'm not experienced enough, but lots of people have used Hankook at up to ERC level. Not obviously a WRC name, but I think it's good in a way to see a new brand. Obviously, it would have been very easy for us to go back to Michelin. Pirelli have not been great, so perhaps it's not the end of the world that they're going. It would have perhaps been nice to see MRF, but I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Hankook get on, whether they have any of the same issues that Pirelli had. Personally, I don't actually like the idea of a single tyre supplier. I think we should find a way that we can have tyre competition, but obviously we have to reduce costs. I think it would have been far better if we'd said everyone has to use the same number of tyres per event. There's a cost cap on development, so the tyres used on Rally 1 cars have to be an off-the-shelf tyre to stop, silly, crazy experimental tyres being used, and let everyone have a go. If Michelin want to supply some tyres to a team, if someone else wants to do a deal with MRF, just let it happen. I don't like single suppliers. I think it railroads people, especially privateers, into using tyres that probably end up being expensive because of some commercial deal that's been signed somewhere. So don't like that. But anyway, it is what it is. Hankook are coming along. Let's do one final thing while I think of it, and that is the fact that there is a working group. Yes, there's a working group. Let's finish with that because it's either going to be really good or really bad. So David Richards and Robert Reed have been appointed to run a working group to look at the future of rallying, not just the WRC, but the future of rallying in general. So that covers sporting, technical, promotion, everything. Interesting, isn't it, that has been announced in the same week that they've been making changes to the format in terms of points and things, but this is either going to be really good or really bad, isn't it? David Richards was the man who changed routes, so we had central service and things. Now I think we're going to end up going away from that again, which is interesting, and I think he has changed his view on that, interestingly enough. But I have a concern here. we all know, I think, what the big problem with the WRC and rallying generally is, and that is promotion. The sport isn't promoted well enough. It doesn't use social media well enough. There's not enough free coverage for the WRC. Everything's behind a paywall. The highlights show isn't very good. Blah 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 blah. We know all that. My concern is that we will not see this panel tackling that head on. Instead, they will make silly little format changes that don't actually make a great deal of difference. I think you could argue that over the last few years we've had lots of changes to the format, small and large. You know, little things like how power stage points are awarded, awarding power stage points for WRC2, for example, right up to the things as big as the cars, you know, the 17 cars, the current cars. Big rule changes. I mean, you could argue that the 17 cars did make a difference in terms of increasing awareness, but I don't think any of it has led to this massive resurgence in the sport, because nothing you do to the regulations, nothing you do to the event format matters if no one's watching. So ultimately, the way to make people watch is better promotion and better media. You know, I think for me, the thing that I would advocate more than anything is that take some of the coverage away from a paywall. Why are we not? You know, I'm not expecting us to broadcast every stage live for free, but the cat has appeared. Look, I told you he came in the room. You're not being helpful. Why not put 2 stages every day on YouTube for free? Just put the all live feed on YouTube for 2 stages. That alone would make it so much easier for people to watch. Because right now, if you have to pay £10 a month to watch the WRC, aside from, you know, a 3-minute highlight program at the end of each day, you're probably not going to bother. So that, for me, and improving the highlights are the 2 biggest things that I would change. And I really, really, really hope that David Richards and Robert Reed do something along those lines. Because if they just cock about with the regulations a bit, I don't think it's going to make any difference. The only regulatory thing I would change, and I'm going to finish on this, is drop Rally 1 because it sucks. I've said this before, it's failed, manufacturers don't care, it's not marketable, let's get rid of it, make Rally 2 the top category, work on adding a hybrid kit to them in a couple of years, done. That is the biggest regulation change you could make to make the sport more accessible for privateers and manufacturers. But I bet that won't happen either. Anyway, let's end this video. Thanks once again for watching. Do please like, comment, subscribe, notifications, Instagram, Twitter, X, or whatever the madman's calling it this week. What else is there? Threads if you care. All of those things. Do follow me. Links in the description. Thank you for watching as always. I will see you again next week.